Greetings and salutations, YouTube. Hitakuri Mike here, bringing you the next episode in our Let's Play Kerbal Space Program. So in this episode, I've just modified my Duna probe into an Eve probe. It's just kind of the standard sort of staging to get me off of the planet. I did upgrade the fuel tanks. I added 2 of the 400 ones. I also added an extra one of those little fuel pods onto each of the probes themselves. On another probe, I added a couple parachutes because I intend to actually land it onto the surface. So yeah. So this is actually what version is it? It's version 0.19.1 is the version that I'm currently running. So we're going to actually be able to see some of the cool atmospheric effects that they've added into the game. Unfortunately, at this point, it's just visual, but beggars can't be choosers. The other thing at this point is Kerbal Space Program is now available on Steam. So if you need, or rather, if you were timid about purchasing it right from the manufacturer, you can always pick it up on Steam at this point. Okay, so we've launched. We're just going through our standard launch procedures, the asparagus stage, and I've actually, with this video, I'm speeding it up. There's going to be a lot of the waiting times. I'm just going to completely remove them. Otherwise, this video would just be way too long. So yeah, if you're a Steam user, check out Kerbal Space Program on Steam. I believe it is $22.99 US dollars. I believe so. But yeah, I mean, hey, that's awesome. I love that that they're finally able to get it. Well, whatever, finally, that they're able to get it to a big distribution like market. So I believe we're coming up to one of my skipping points pretty soon. I'm just going to, get into a stable orbit so I don't fall back down onto the surface, which would not be helpful in getting to Duna. Or rather to Eve. Well, it doesn't help getting to Duna either. But, so pretty much what happens is I'm going to be switching over to my satellite, and time accelerating until Eve is catching up to me, up to planet Kerbin at, I believe it's something like 60 degrees, I think is what it is. And there's a lot of me fapping around here with, hey, how do I do this? So I'm skipping a lot of that as well. So I'm just, messing around trying to get that encounter with the planet. I managed to get it, and I'm just waiting to do my burn. So, on my front, my motherboard and processor finally came in. So, I'm hoping that is going to be helping me out with being able to maybe capture at a smoother frame rate, being able to render my videos more quickly. I'm just really looking forward to being able to do that. Now, if you didn't know, I do have sort of aspirations to eventually get into the i7s, like the high i7s, but I don't have the financial capability to do it at this point. So I've gone with a sort of medium upgrade, although it is kind of the highest AMD processor that you can get. My logic was, I could either buy the what is it? The i7-3770, I think, is the one I was eyeballing. It should be the 4-core, 8-threaded processor. Ugh. I could just buy that for $400, or I could buy the AMD FX, 8350, the 8-core processor. So technically, I have the same number of threads, because, it would be one per core. So I'm hoping that that will somewhat equal. I mean, maybe not so much in the actual power behind it, but I'll see what happens. But yeah, I was able to pick up the processor and the motherboard for a little bit under the $400 mark. So that's kind of what I did in that situation. Maybe once I catch up on some more of my bills and whatnot. So yeah, another jump. I had to do it just because of the length that the video was going to end up being, even with time acceleration and everything. Hey, who needs to sit through the wait from Kerbin to Eve? Nothing happens, so there's no point in putting it in the video. So today was kind of an interesting day with reinstalling my OS and everything like that. I haven't really been able to do a whole lot in the way of gaming so far today, which kind of sucks, but hey, I've been able to edit this video, which is a bonus. So at this point, I'm just kind of burning down because I'm looking at the Eve periapps, and I mean, if I can get that closer at this point, I should. So I'm just kind of waiting to get in there. Okay, so I just have to do my retrograde burn so that I can be under the sphere of influence of Eve and be captured into an orbit. So just gotta wait for me to get down to that periapps there so I can begin my burn. Actually, I was really lucky with this mission. A lot of times it seems like I end up overshooting my nav points. Just I don't know, the time acceleration gets away from me. So it was really nice to be able to do that. Now, also at this point, because I have so much fuel in that rocket, I'm going to attempt to get my encounter with Gilly. And this is the encounter that I managed to eventually get. And it's a wonderful encounter. Really. If you see what happens there, hey, there's my Gilly periapps, and at that point I can, do my burn. But this projected trajectory also kind of has me in a very sort of eccentric elliptical orbit to Eve. And I'm thinking to myself, why don't I get my Eve periapts like into the atmosphere? Use atmospheric braking to... I'll use my atmospheric braking to, you know, kind of reduce my fuel use, I guess is what I want to say, you know. So I'm just kind of double checking at this point to see how much delta V I need to expend to get into to get captured by Gilly, to get into an orbit. Now, I haven't really tested these probes, and last time I just released a probe to be hopefully captured by a moon. It really didn't work out all that well. So I'm crossing my fingers at this point that, you know, this tiny little probe will hopefully be able to expend the like over 400 meters per second delta V. So we're coming up to the moment of truth, and you know, my eyes are glued to the how much liquid fuels remained on this probe, and there it is. I took another little shot there, and that was almost disastrous. But I mean, the amount of fuel that I have left is awesome. Like, I don't know how much delta V these little guys have, but it seems to be quite a bit. So I switched back to the rocket, the main satellite itself, you know, and I think, yeah, it's somewhere around 60 kilometers is above the surface is where it's at. So we just kind of zoom down there, and now we get to see the effects that they've added in for 0.1.9. So I'm going to retract my solar panels because I really don't want them ripped off. And we're just about... we started entering the atmosphere at this point. So we're 75 kilometers up. And, you know, we're starting to see the atmosphere right there. Oh, and we start with the atmospheric effects. You know, it's like, oh man, it's so awesome. It looks so nice. And then I'm looking at my Apple apps and how like it's just going down. And I'm thinking to myself, I really got to turn this thing around just in case I have to burn, so that it can, if the Apple apps is reduced so much that it's within the atmosphere, this mission is doomed. So I'm desperately trying. I'm like, you know, I eventually turn on RCS, and that's the only thing that even starts to get me turning properly. But even that is not enough. So I don't know what I'm doing at this point, but I'm sweating bullets because it's just coming down so much. It's like, I think it's got to be pretty soon here. I'm going to say to myself, you know, I have to turn the RCS on. Like, that's the only way that I'm going to get this craft turned around towards my prograde so that I can do a burn. Like, yeah, there's the RCS on right now. And, you know, I'm desperately trying to get that turned. And, like, the best I can do is, I think, get it sideways on, because it keeps forcing me back. But, at this point, we are increasing in altitude. We're still in the atmosphere. You know, like, 100 and some odd, 190 some odd kilometers up. Is down to 168. It's still dropping. Oh man, this was seriously tense going through this. But it was so worth it. So yeah, still going up. And I'm finally managing to like point the craft, towards prograde, just in case I have to. Expend some fuel here. But it's kind of looking like everything's slowing down, I'm really starting to get outside of the orbit. Although, yeah, my periap's there. That's looking pretty good. So I decided at this point that, hey, maybe what I should do is I'll disengage my little probe that's going to land on the surface, because this guy's committed to like hitting the planet. Like there's no escape for this guy. I mean, unless I burn prograde, but I might as well, just use what I got. Can't remember what's okay. Yeah, I'm, making sure that that my main satellite doesn't fall back into the atmosphere and doom itself. So I'm going to do my burn to get a stable orbit. Extend my panels, and then we got this awesome sunrise coming up over here. Oh, it's just about to happen. It's going to be beautiful. Look at that. So I don't know what it is with this version, but I find it difficult to select craft like other crafts on the map. There was one time I was clicking for like 2 minutes to try to get it. But yeah. So, I'm just kind of messing around here with, where I can like kind of get this guy to land. One of the things that was kind of worrying was I wasn't able to select the parachutes to like deploy them. So I'm not really sure what was up with that. So I'd rather for this guy not to land in the oceans of whatever the heck it is. So we're kind of committed to landing on the land. And once again, we have our atmospheric reentry effects. And as you can see, it doesn't really register so much on my thermometer. And for whatever reason, the chute's already deployed. I'm not entirely sure why that happened. It made for a long descent. Yeah, it's like, now it gave me the option to cut the chutes, and, there was no way in hell I was doing that. Just kind of double checking the sensors. Everything seems to be operational. So, one of the biggest things is I'm interested in the temperature. Like, because this is supposed to be, this is supposed to be the Venus analog, I believe. So, I mean, I think it's got like 4 or 5 times the atmospheric thickness of Kerbin. Um, so I was expecting to see some interesting numbers on the temperature scale. Yeah, like you can see the pressure going up there on the barometer. So yeah, we're in the 140s or so on temperature. If I remember correctly, we pretty much peak out at I believe it's around 148, something like that. Um, but I do show that later on. So the chutes have opened up. We're just kind of making the last of the descent. And there we are. Successfully landed a probe onto the surface of Eve. So one of the things I notice here is, hey, I can't actually access my sensors. So, oops, I knocked the craft over. Everything seems to be held together. So I'm just going to leave it at that. I have access to all my sensors. Yeah, like, 4 point something there. And yeah, that's that. Little tiny probe on the surface of a foreign planet. Now, yeah, like I said, I'm just clicking like mad on that thing to try to get it to select it, and I decide, hey, I'm just going to go to the Space Center and select it that way, because it's not working. So I'm just kind of finalizing the mission here. I'm going to put this guy on like an orbit that's pretty far out. Like, I mean, not too far, but rather far out. But I'm dumping off the other satellites first. Messing around with my maneuver nodes and finding out, hey, that's like almost 2 kilometers of delta V, and I'm pretty sure these little probes don't have that. So I decide to choose a different way to go about it, and we'll get this guy situated. A relatively low orbit around the planet. And you can see there actually how dark it is. They've like reduced the light on the far side of the planet. And same with right here, right? So I just finished dropping off or disconnecting the second probe. And I'm just burning prograde with the main satellite at this point. Now, one of the things, yeah, I had like a graphical glitch right there. I don't understand. So actually, I just exited out of the game and came back. So these are what we have going on. So we have our little probe orbiting Gilly. We have our main probe, which could actually function as the start of a space station. Like, I just kind of thought about it. It's like, this guy's got 4 docking ports on it. Like, I could totally start a space station. Like, that is awesome. Just kind of add to it. So, maybe at some point that's something that I could do. But yeah, so I have that guy oriented north, like, yeah, click, 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 try to get this. So, yeah, not really a whole lot that we can see there, because it's so dark, but, whatever, this is the little tiny probe that's got the pretty low orbit around Eve, and I'm just kind of, marveling at the planet itself. Like it's just so interesting. Like what are those lakes of? Like, we know the temperature is, in the 148 or so on the surface. So, I mean, it shouldn't be lakes of water. Water should be evaporated. Like, what else could it be? And then last but not, well, I guess not necessarily last, but our last probe in orbit around Eve is this guy, which is a little farther out, but he's just kind of doing his job. And then of course we have our guy on the surface. If I can select him. So yeah, at this point I'm like, oh no, did that graphic glitch happen again? But I guess it didn't. So at this point I get curious. So does day-night cycles affect the temperature on the planet? So we once the temperature probe gets a proper reading, I decide, hey, I'll time accelerate. And we get an awesome sunset, and the sky turns green. That is so cool. Like, would that be oxygen present in the surface? Would oxygen turn it green? I believe that oxygen is green. I mean, ionized oxygen anyways. But yeah, there's no change, unfortunate. So yeah, a successful mission. Got everything done that we set out to do. And I believe that our next target is going to be Jewel with its moons. So with that, if you enjoyed the content you've seen in the video, please like and favorite. If you like the content you see on my channel, please subscribe. And with that, I hope to see you in the near future.